What's up, guys? Eric Prey, Focus Fishing Guide Service, Table Rock Fishing Intel. Got another detailed weekly fishing report for Table Rock Lake. This is, of course, for you Table Rock Fishing Intel Pro members. As usual, thank you so much for being a pro member of Table Rock Intel. Thank you for helping us to continue to provide you guys with all the information that you need to catch more fish on Table Rock Lake. We do really appreciate your support quite a bit. As far as our lake level is concerned, we're at 914.72 today. Puts us 0.3 feet down. Corps doing a really good job of bringing the lake down after that heavy rain we had a few weeks ago when it came up so much. Beaver still, I think 3 or 4 feet high, and Bull Shoals I think is still 13 feet high. But definitely they've done a good job of getting Table Rock down to a normal, manageable level. Water temperature is a little bit all over the map right now, just because of the amount of sunny days and how much cool down we had after the weekend, after that big front came through on Saturday. On average, I'd say it's around 61, 62. You know, mid-lake, lower end of the lake, Baxter area, it's all around that 60 to 62. I was up to James today crappie fishing, and I mean, we saw 63 to 66. So you definitely have some areas where the water's got some stain to it that warm up a lot faster and have held the warmth quite a bit. So obviously those areas where it's stained and the water's a little bit warmer, those fish are going to be a little bit more active and a little bit more likely to chase baits than anything else. But you know, the bite has been good. I have been catching quite a few fish. Of course, you guys know that if you're watching Table Rock Fishing Intel, we've had a lot of daily reports. I've been on the water pretty much every day but Sunday. Posted reports pretty much every day. Pete's been posting some, Phil's been posting some, Brian has. Hopefully Nico will get us some reports coming out of the Kings River before too much longer now that he's got his boat back. But do thank you guys for being Table Rock Fishing Intel members. But if you're coming down, going to fish the lower end of the lake, fished the lower end one time this past week. And in all honesty, I left the clear water. I didn't really even try to catch them in the clear water. Just, I'm wanting to fish shallow. I'm wanting to catch fish that are up, ready to spawn, wanting to catch more active fish. So where I fished when I fished the lower end this past week was up Long Creek, pretty much from the bridge to Cricket is where we fished. Most of the fish we caught were 3 to maybe 12 foot deep. Caught them doing a couple of different things. Had some good wind that day, so we did catch a couple on a spinnerbait, throwing the jeweled gem blade. Caught them on that. Caught a few on a chatterbait. Of course, I throw the jackhammer. I was throwing it in white and chartreuse with a white 3.3 Kitech on it and tail dipped in chartreuse. Most of those fish were relating to cover, and we were going back into the little pockets and little cuts and even some of the little creek arms and throwing it around wood. Any wood we could find, we would throw it around there. We didn't catch a lot of fish, didn't catch any big fish, but we did catch fish doing that. Caught them better as far as numbers and quality on a jig and a squirrel head. I was throwing the Jewel Pro Spider jig, throwing with Okeechobee Blue with a Speed Craw trailer on it, Green Pumpkin Speed Craw, and tipped the pinchers in orange. Most of those fish were, they were probably 4, maybe even less than that, maybe 2 or 3 foot out to about 10 or 12 foot. There wasn't much of a bite to it though. It was kind of weird. You'd pull it off of a ledge and it wouldn't hit the bottom, or all of a sudden it would just get spongy feeling. Most of the fish are in rock and gravel mix. I'm not catching them on, you know, ledge rock or straight up and down rock or even chunk rock so much, and I'm certainly not catching them on gravel. I haven't figured out why they're not on gravel yet, but I'm not catching them on gravel. And then the same deal with the shaky head, throwing the Jewel squirrel head 1/4 ounce with a 5-inch Senko on it, Green Pumpkin Senko, and I'm dipping the tail or painting the tail chartreuse. Same location, same sort of spots. Didn't really throw a crankbait up there. And in all honesty, guys, the crankbait bite is kind of getting away from me, and I'm kind of getting away from it. I catch a few on it. I didn't throw it up there, but I can still catch a few on a crankbait, but it just doesn't seem I'm catching a whole lot of quality on a crankbait. It seems like all the little bucks that have moved up and are starting to spawn are the ones I'm seeing up there, and the ones I'm catching up there shallow, they don't seem to want to let it get down to the 7 or 8 foot depth and let the better fish get to it. Going to mid-lake area, fished the mid-lake a couple of times last week. It's The moss was horrible. Let's see, I guess I fished over there Wednesday, Thursday, or Thursday, Friday, I don't know. But the moss was really bad in some of the pockets, and other areas it wasn't too bad. Did catch them really well. Saw a lot of fish on beds. Didn't really see that many down lake. Didn't look for them, but saw a lot of fish on beds. Messed with a few of them, caught a few of them, just little keepers and let them go again. But around those bedding fish, I have been able to catch them on either a weightless fluke or a weightless worm, a floating worm, or like a trick worm, and throwing it over the bed and just twitching it a few times, trying to agitate them and get them to come up. And plus, you will pick up some out away from the beds as well doing that. We were able to catch them on a swim bait there. Most of the swim bait fish, we did have to back out a little ways and keep it up off the bottom to keep from picking up moss, but you can catch them on a swim bait up there as well. Kitech 2.8 and a 1/4 ounce head. The fish are still coming in that 5 to 15 foot range. You just got to back out and make sure it doesn't hit the bottom before you start reeling. Didn't really throw a jig or a shaky head there because we had a moss issue. From what I understand though, there are quite a few areas where that moss is starting to break up in the Kimberling City area, so pretty good chance you'd be able to throw a jig, a shaky head on those same banks that we've been catching them on down by the dam and up the lake as well. Go up in the James River. Better bite in the James River was certainly on a jig and on a shaky head. Most of them around the mouths of spawning pockets. We did catch some back in the pockets before this front came through, but most of the fish we were catching were kind of on those points leading into the spawning pockets or actual bank leading towards the back of the spawning pockets. I'm sure some of them were on beds. We just didn't see the beds, but catching them on the jewel squirrel head again with a Senko, painting the tail in chartreuse, and catching them on the peewee, or not the peewee, I'm sorry, the Jewel Pro Spider jig, Okeechobee Blue with a Zoom Speed Craw trailer, and again painting the trailer with a little bit of orange on it. And most of those fish were, well, we found areas without moss. A lot of the areas up the James don't have any moss. Ants Creek had some moss, but I think it's pretty well broke up now. But most of what we fished was from Cedar Hollow on up, and most of those areas did not have moss, and we were able to fish from the bank out to about 12 feet, and a lot of our bites were in that 5 to 8 foot range. So some of those could have been spawners, some of them could have been pre-spawn, post-spawn, don't know. Did throw a topwater up there a little bit because we didn't have a whole lot of wind and had a lot of blow-ups on it, but did not connect with anything. I shouldn't say we didn't connect. I guess we had one fish on and it came unbuttoned, so it looked like a decent fish, but who knows. Throwing the surge shad and throwing a spook. We had a lot of bites on that, and that bite's really going to start taking off here before too much longer, guys. Up the white, probably the majority of my trips in the last 2 weeks have been up the white for a couple of reasons. I like fishing the white this time of year. It tends to turn on. It doesn't get as much pressure as the James does or the Mid-Lake does when we've got all these tournaments in town. And I've got some variety up there to fish. If I'm running into moss around Baxter, I can usually get out of it by going to Campbell. If I can't get out of it at Campbell, I can go into the Kings, so on and so forth. So it gives me a lot of variety and a lot of different areas to fish. Plus, a lot of that area starts to turn on a little bit faster, especially around the mouth of the Kings. When you get that warmer water coming out of the Kings, it does tend to turn on a little bit faster. So I've spent a lot of time up the white. Best bite I've had, it's basically been 2 bites. Fished up there yesterday, caught them on swim bait, basically targeting shad. Not really caring about how deep the bank was or what kind of cover was there. I was using my forward-facing sonar and finding balls of shad, and almost every time there would be a fish following, or 2 fish or 3 fish following the shad, and I'd bring the swim bait through it and kill it and let it fall through the shad, and I'd get bit. So keep that in mind if you're up there. If you start seeing shad, there were a lot of shad close to the surface as well. You start seeing those shad, certainly throw a swim bait through them, kill it when you get over top of them, and you get a lot of bites doing that. The other bait that we did really well with yesterday was the squirrel head again. Squirrel head with a Senko on it, and green pumpkin Senko, tip the tail in chartreuse, working it on gravel and rock mix, points, and going into the pockets, the spawning pockets. And in all honesty, guys, I had a 6-hour trip yesterday. We spent quite a bit of time looking for bedding fish, and we found some empty beds, but we did not find that many bedding fish up there. I think, I'm going to say some of them have probably already spawned and are done, but I think there's another wave yet to come, and it will probably come in this next week when we have the new moon. There'll probably be another big wave move up and spawn this week because the water temperature is finally going in the right direction again. But definitely have a swim bait, definitely have a shaky head tied on. Did catch them on a top water up there. Not a lot of fish. I had a couple of fish on it. I had a lot more blow-ups than we had fish. It was dead slick calm yesterday morning. A lot of shad on the surface, like I said, and if we threw either a spook or a surge shad around those schools of shad, we would get blow-ups. Don't know the size of the fish. These could have been little Kentuckys for all we know, but we had a lot of blow-ups. The ones we caught were like 14 and a half, 15-inch KY, so it's not a big fish pattern yet, but you can certainly go up and catch some fish on a top water if you're so inclined. And then the spinnerbait chatterbait bite. Did that late last week. We had some wind, got into some pockets that had some pretty substantial laydowns up the Kings, and just working that thing through them, working the jewel gem blade or the jackhammer around that wood, through that wood, throwing it up in there. Don't really pay attention to the depth. I'm just throwing it around stumps, I'm throwing it around laydowns, I'm throwing it around log jams. Anywhere there's wood in the water, I work that thing back in there and try to get, try to keep it as close to the wood as possible and bang it into the wood to draw strikes. Again, not catching a lot of big fish, but we are catching fish doing that as well. Big fish bite, I had a 5-pounder yesterday and I had a 6 last week. Both of those big fish came on 2.8 Kai tack. So, and both of those fish were relating to shad. I mean, that if I were to go out, if I fished the big bass deal this past weekend, I probably would have went and just scanned for shad and thrown a swim bait around shad, because that's where both the big fish I've caught in the last 2 weeks have come from, chasing shad with a small swim bait. But other than that, as far as catching numbers of fish, swim bait again, shaky head, and then if you go up in the Kings, go way up the White, get up above Eagle Rock where we've got some log jams and a lot more wood and stuff in the water, a chatterbait or a spinnerbait. If you got a windy day, all those are working really well. Guys, again, thanks for being members. Table Rock Fishing Intel, we do really appreciate that. It's growing, we're growing, some cool stuff coming down the line, hopefully. But we really do appreciate you guys being members and supporting what we do and making it possible for us to do what we do. But if you're coming down, want to hire a guide, give me a call. It's Focus Fishing Guide Service. You can reach me at 417-860-4743 or hit my website, focusfishing.com. You can either shoot me an email or book online. Either way, I get back to you, usually within a couple hours, at most 10 or 12 hours. But we'll get hooked up, go out, have some fun, catch some fish. Guys, thanks for watching the video. Thanks for being members of Table Rock Fishing Intel. Can't wait to hear from you. We'll see you on the water.